For those of you that don't know me, I am Sarah Velasquez. I am the Communications Core Manager, so I'm the one that does the website and the seminars and any communications activities on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and our other social media outlets. Many of you probably received emails from me with the pictures that you had taken at the symposium, and those pictures are to be used for your LinkedIn account that we are going to be talking about today. So please do use those. If you have any questions, if you have any great things happen to you, such as achievements, awards, anything of that, you may contact me and I will make sure they get posted on our Facebook page and our website so that everybody can see your great accomplishments. And you can contact me at any time about anything. My information is on our website, and I'm happy to help you out in any way that I can. So we're going to go ahead and get started today. If you all could mute your microphones, that would be great. If you don't, I will probably mute them for you. We will have questions at the end. Is that okay? Or
yes,
okay.
Sure.
We'll have questions at the end, and I will let our guest speaker today introduce himself and get started.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm Kent McAnally. I'm the Director of Career Services at Washburn. And before I joined the staff here at Washburn, I worked in career services at KU, so I've been around for a while. I want to start with a disclaimer, and the disclaimer is this. I like LinkedIn a lot, and I use it, and I preach about it on our campus with students a lot. There are people out there who are real experts on LinkedIn. One of them is Lindsay Pollock, and she's sort of a spokesperson, or has been over the years, for LinkedIn, and she's brilliant, and she knows all the ins and outs. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I'm going to try to help you today understand a little bit about what LinkedIn is and how it works and how to manage your profile, and then a few tips that will help you use it more effectively. Now, I often tell students that I am a good, bad example for a lot of things, so I'm going to use my LinkedIn profile today as both a good example and a bad example because it's both, and in so doing, I'll I think, demonstrate some of the really useful tools that you have available to you through the use of LinkedIn. So we're going to show my profile. That's where we're going to go next, and we will proceed from there. I have to share it first on. Got it. All righty. So there I am. I am a handsome brute, don't you think? I don't actually look that good, so that is kind of the first lesson here, is that you want to have a nice looking picture, and the truth is that people take you much more seriously on LinkedIn when you have a good looking picture there, and I'll talk about that more in just a little bit. We will have time for questions at the end. There will be questions. I don't know whether there'll be answers or not, but we'll at least have some questions. You can laugh at my bad jokes even if I can't hear you, because there won't be any good ones. They're all bad. So. LinkedIn, we often draw sort of a parallel between LinkedIn and Facebook, but they're really not as similar as you might think. LinkedIn is a professional networking system. And so it really is not the same as Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or any of the other social media things, as I'm sure you already know. It is a really good resource for gathering information, to connecting with your colleagues and other professionals, for getting information about potential employment or potential additional education, graduate schools, and that sort of thing. It is a really good tool for making contacts in places that you would like to be. And we talk about this a lot with our students who are seeking employment, because this is a way you can get some information about, some inside information about the places that you are interested in working, and I'll show you a little bit about how that works before we're done today. So you're able to get a little bit of inside scoop, which I think is very helpful. It's also a helpful tool for building professional networks of people helping people. We use that word networking a lot, and I think that the word networking is misunderstood as I'm going to ask people to help me. Networking is a two-way street, and in order for you to ask people to help you, you need to be willing to provide help to other people as well. So we tell folks all the time that the time to develop your network is before you need it, because you want to develop relationships before you ask someone for some help. So a good place, this is a good place to start. I am an introvert, and introverts sometimes struggle with face-to-face networking. Just meeting people sometimes is difficult for us. Now, a lot of people who meet me don't think I'm an introvert, but they can't read the clues probably for that. LinkedIn is a good way to begin your networking where you don't really have to see that person face-to-face to start, but it is not as effective as face-to-face networking. It just helps you get started with it. It's also a wonderful place, in addition to your professional journals and your conferences, to keep abreast of professional developments and to share things with other people and to ask questions, start discussions, participate in those things. I'll also tell you this. You can expect to be the subject of a Google search. Somebody is going to, as we say, Google you. And you want good things to come up when somebody Googles you. And the more engaged you are on LinkedIn with groups and discussions, even though we don't know the secret of Google's algorithms, we do know that the more you're engaged in the good things, the more likely good things are to come up at the top of a search results when somebody Googles you. So LinkedIn is a really great way for that to happen. So here's a little bit about how it works, and we're going to use my profile to talk about this a little bit. Setting up your profile is really a little bit like writing a resume, because you include much of the same information that you would include on a resume. Now, what you're looking at here is not in the edit mode exactly, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. So you kind of get the rundown of my profile. Here's my experience, which is lengthy and in a variety of fields. You can see I was a music teacher in my first life. And then some other things that I'm going to talk about in a little bit more depth. And we get all the way down here to groups that are toward the bottom, and we'll talk about what those are and how to use those. And I know Sarah is interested in having you join the K-INBRE group, and that's a great.
This is K-State. Are we supposed to be seeing slides right now, or your profile?
Yeah, you can't see it?
No, we were before, and it's disappeared.
Can anybody else see it?
We can see it at KU.
Let's just stop it and start it.
Okay.
Can you see it, Dr. Chapes?
No.
I do not know what the problem is.
Yeah, well, it came on, it was on, and then it went blank, and I thought at first it was just the,
Okay. All right. I don't know what to tell you.
well, why don't you go forward? We'll see if we can figure out our issue.
All right. I'm going to talk first about creating your profile, and probably most of you have already done that, or at least have already started on that. I hope so. It is pretty important to have a good-looking photograph here. I'll tell you, when I first set up my LinkedIn profile, I had a picture that we'd taken in the office of me standing in front of a door, and it was pretty blah. But when we redid the web site at Washburn, our university photographer took pictures of faculty and some staff people to go on our website. So I asked her if she'd take my picture, and so that was taken outside the building where we work. She's pretty good, so I actually look better in that picture than I do in person, which is not saying a lot, really. On down in the experience section, you want to give a pretty good history of your experience here, and this is a place where you can, as you would in a resume, talk about your accomplishments. I think you also now have the ability, I know in fact you now have the ability to attach documents or photographs or links or other things that enhance your presentation of your experience. I haven't really done that with mine, so mine looks a little bit blah. I encourage that, but don't go overboard. Don't go. Okay, no. No.
I don't know why it keeps doing that.
I don't know either. Don't go overboard with all of the images and so forth, but it is certainly okay to include links. I think those would be good. So if you have a portfolio or a conference presentation you've done or a paper or something that's online, please be sure to include a link to that work there as well. As I mentioned, my experience section is pretty long. It's because I've included my whole history. And most of you won't have to go all the way back 30-something years. Most students don't laugh when I do that. They think that's real. I'm just trying to cover up the fact that it was a long time ago that I got started. So we come down to the next section, which is the skills and endorsement section. When you set up your profile, you have the ability to pick what you think are your top 10 skills, and I encourage you strongly to do that. This invites people to do something called endorse you. Endorsements are basically the click of a button. You can endorse somebody's skill with a click of a button. So it really doesn't take a whole lot of effort. What you may not realize, but you can see from my profile, is that you can put your top 10 in, but people can endorse you for anything. So it sometimes becomes a little odd. Somebody here in this room a while ago mentioned that they saw that conflict resolution was one of the things that somebody has endorsed me for. That's somebody who doesn't know me, obviously. The good news is that you now have the ability to turn those off if you don't want somebody to see that. You can edit that so that it doesn't show. And so far as I know, the person on the other end won't know that. So you don't really have to worry about offending somebody who endorses you for goodness only knows what, that they just kind of pulled out of a hat. So lots of folks have endorsed me, or a number have, and it is good form to endorse other people as well. So when people start to endorse you, you want to set aside a little bit of time, get on and look at your connections, and you want to endorse them for things that you think they're good at. Which brings us to something that I'm going to scroll down a little bit more, to something called recommendations, because recommendations carry more weight. The reason that recommendations carry more weight is that it takes a little bit more effort to do a recommendation for someone. So I have just a couple. I don't really press this. I've endorsed a couple of, I've recommended a couple of other folks. Notice that they're short. Recommendations on LinkedIn are just a paragraph. So this is not like writing a full letter of recommendation for someone for grad school, for example. This is just a brief recommendation, but it does take a little bit of effort. You can request that people write recommendations for you. It's certainly okay to do that. The etiquette is that it's okay. You can provide a recommendation without being asked. I had a friend a while back whose position at a school in Ohio was eliminated, and so he was looking for a career services position elsewhere in the U.S., and he's very good, I think. I found his work to be exceptional. He's just a very fine person. So I offered to write a recommendation for him on LinkedIn, on his LinkedIn profile. He didn't really need me for his job search, but folks that were going to be looking him up on LinkedIn, as potential employers will do, would see that from one of his colleagues. He was. So I did that, and he ultimately got a much better job than the one he had that was eliminated. So I'm sure I had everything to do with that. Actually, I had nothing to do with that, but I do think he ended up in a good place. But I'm going to back up just a little bit. Organizations and honors and awards are pretty self-explanatory, I think. The education section, again, you have the ability to add certain things here other than just the text. I'd be cautious about that unless you're linking to some award that has to do with your education, or if you want to link to organizations that come from your educational background. Pretty straight ahead, I think. And then at the very bottom, or toward the bottom, are the groups. We're going to look at groups in a little bit more depth, because I'm going to talk about groups for just a few minutes in just a second. As on Facebook, you can follow certain things, and it's a good idea to pick some things to follow, and you will get some emails from those things that will bring you news about what's going on with those organizations. It's not just people that can have profiles on LinkedIn. Companies and educational institutions also have LinkedIn profiles. A couple of years ago, sort of without warning, LinkedIn informed colleges and universities that they had a LinkedIn page. And we didn't necessarily know that until it just sort of arrived. So somebody at LinkedIn had sort of created these by default. But the good news is that most colleges and universities are using these, and they will include the news from their institution in the management of the page. I happen to be, just by default, I guess, or by accident, one of the people that is considered an administrator for the Washburn University page, and unfortunately I don't really have a lot of time to do it, so there's several of us that sort of contribute to the stuff that goes on that Washburn University page. But you can see that I'm following an organization, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, NACE, which is my national association, and some other things. Anderson State University, my undergraduate alma mater. Alrighty. I want to talk about requesting connections. In requesting connections, you want to find people that you have things in common with, at least to start with. And I would recommend that you start with people that you know. So the people that you don't know, that you know, may be faculty, mentors, they may be your colleagues, your fellow students, they may be people you've met at your conferences. Start there and get some connections that way first. I always tell Washburn students when I meet with them and talk about LinkedIn that I don't turn down a Washburn student on LinkedIn. So if you request a connection to me and you're a Washburn student, I will connect with you. And then you have access to all of my connections. I won't do that on Facebook. Facebook is my social circle. LinkedIn is my professional circle. So there's a search bar right at the top of your screen always, and you can search here for organizations and groups and people. So I'm going to search for somebody who's sitting here in the room with me. And there she is, Sarah Velasquez. Sarah, I'm going to request a connection with you.
Okay.
So I click on Sarah, and I go to Sarah's profile. Here's Sarah's profile. I hope all of you have already looked at it.
I didn't know I was going to be on display today.
There you are. Requesting a connection is very easy. They've made this much easier in LinkedIn than it was to start with. At first, you needed to be introduced to someone you didn't know. Now you can just request a link. but be judicious with that. Don't just do it at will. So I've met Sarah. She's sitting here in the room. So I'm going to click on Connect to request a connection to Sarah. And you will get this little dialogue box here about how you know or don't know Sarah. So there didn't used to be that link about I don't know Sarah, but now there is. I'm not going to choose that. I'm going to choose we've done business together. Sarah and I have done business together, and we've done business together because I'm the Director of Career Services at Washburn University. Here's something really important. There is a default box with a default message right there. Don't use it. Personalize the message that you send to someone to request a connection. So I think you want to give them a little clue about how you know them. So I'm going to say thank you for inviting me to speak today, Sarah. I'd like to connect with you on, whoops, I'd like to learn how to type on LinkedIn. So, and then I send the invitation, just click the button, and the message appears in Sarah's email that Kent would like to connect with you on LinkedIn. And then she gets to decide. She can choose to accept it, or she can decline, or she can ignore it. Now, I can tell you that Kent has 2 or 3 that have been sitting out there in the ignore stack for a long time. And the reason is because I don't really want to decline these people. However, I really don't want to be connected with them. In most cases, they're trying to connect with me because they want to sell me something for work here at school, and we don't have a budget to do it, and I know they're going to hound me mercilessly if I accept their request. So I just kind of leave it there hanging. Don't be Kent. Don't do that to people. I'm a bad guy for doing that. But you want to be, you do want to be careful about how you do it. So it's really pretty easy to connect with people, but you definitely want to have something in common with someone, I think, before you request a connection. Now, that doesn't have to be huge. I mean, it may be somebody that you belong to a group with. You have something in common with that person already. It may be somebody that you share an interest with. It may be an alum from your college or university. And that's okay. You have that in common. But be sure that you mention that in the message when you request the connection. I can't emphasize that enough. I think that's really important. If it's somebody you cross paths with at a conference or something like that, just be sure that you mention it. All right. So I talked about, here we go again. I talked about searches.
For some reason, Kate is sharing their screen.
Oh, good. Yes, we'd like to stop there. Things that you don't expect always happen whenever you're doing this kind of thing. So that's a life lesson for everybody.
Just roll with it.
Yeah. You can search for a whole bunch of different things. So, and it tells you right up here in the search bar, you can search for people, jobs, companies, and more, including educational institutions. If you're considering going to graduate school at some particular place and you don't know a whole lot about it, you should include LinkedIn as part of your research on that institution, because you might find out some things that you don't know.
These dudes really adamant about sharing their screen.
They are. Thank you, K-State. But I will, when we kind of get back here, I will show you something good about looking up an organization, a company, for example.
I'm fighting with K-State here.
One of the great things when you search for a company, for example, is, I'm sure glad I have you here sitting by me. So,
that is why I'm here.
I would be,
There we go.
probably be lost. Is that it will tell you who works there that's on LinkedIn. So I'm going to use this one just because it's somebody here in town. So I just put in Payless Shoe, and Payless Shoe Source is a large employer here in Topeka, their world headquarters is here in Topeka. So I'm going to click on their page and take a look at their profile. So here's the Payless Shoe Source page, their profile. On the right-hand side, you notice that it says how you're connected. Well, this tells you that they have 4,646 employees who are on LinkedIn. That's a lot, in case you didn't know. 4 of those I have a direct connection with. I thought I probably had more, but that's the 4. That's their pictures there. That's called a first-degree connection. A second-degree connection, that means all the people that they're connected to. So I have a second-degree connection through those 4 to 610 of those 4,646 employees on LinkedIn. And right under that, there is a button where I can see all. I can see all 4,600 of those people. I tell you, it's pretty fascinating, I think. So that's a good way, again, to see if there's somebody who is connected at some place you're considering. I'm not sure if it does that for educational institutions or not. Let's see. The University of Kansas. It does. I have 97 first-degree connections at the University of Kansas. I went to school there. I happen to know quite a few people. This also takes you right to, and maybe because I'm an alum, right to the Alumni tool, which I'm also about to show you, which is another great way to look for people in places that you want to be and be able to make those connections. So I'm just going to move to that now. That's under the My Network link at the top of the page, the My Network tab. The bottom option there is called Find Alumni. The alumni page, alumni tool, will come up for whatever the last institution is that you have in your profile. So the most recent institution in my profile is the University of Kansas because that's the last place I graduated from. But I'm going to change this, and you can do that. There is a button on the right side, a drop-down list, where you can change it to any university you want to, browse by name. And the one I use the most often in my job, as you might expect, is Washburn University. There are 18,198 Washburn University alums on LinkedIn. This tells me where they live, where they work, what kind of jobs they have, what they studied while they were in school, what their top skills are. Now, maybe they've been endorsed by people that don't know, but and then how we're connected. I'm connected. I have a first degree connection to 349 of those, second degree connections to 5,907. There are an additional 2,328 that belong to groups that I belong to, and I don't really have a connection, third level or others, to those remaining 11,000. If you click on one of those blue bars, it will take you to just that group. So if I wanted to look at the Washburn alums who live in Topeka, Kansas area, I can click on that blue bar, and there they are. And where they work, 185 of them work for Stormont Vale, which is a large hospital here in town. 121 work for Payless Shoe Source, 115 work for Westar Energy, which is the electric utility. And their headquarters is here, so they hire a lot of students, graduates to work there. And the types of jobs they have, and then you can scroll over to what they studied while they were in school, what their skills are, and how we're connected. So really a handy tool. So if I were, for example, looking to move, and I was thinking about moving to Dallas, I can click on this Dallas-Fort Worth area link and see those 482 Washburn alums who are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and if you scroll on down, those will start to load. So there's Grady Woodruff. He's a fairly recent alum, and I kind of know Grady, and if I needed somebody to tell me a little bit about what's going on in Dallas and where it might be a good place to live in Dallas, or who some of the good employers were in Dallas that I might be interested in, or what it's like to go to the University of Texas at Dallas, then I might contact Grady through LinkedIn. There's a little circle with an envelope in the middle of it. That's how you can send a message right through LinkedIn to one of these people. Who else I know there? Oh, yeah, I know some of these folks. I would hope so. I should, because we'd like for all Washburn students, of course, to come to our Career Services office. So I'm going to admonish all of you that are listening to be sure that you use the resources in your Career Services office as well. Thank you for putting in a plug, Kent. I'm also going to interest. Under interest, this is where you can find groups. Now, groups fall into two types. There are groups that you have to be invited to join. Those will not come up in a search. So they're kind of like secret groups. It's like you have to know the secret handshake to be able to get into those. So that means they want to keep it very closely guarded. The other type of group has recently changed to how they work it. We've always thought of it as an open group. You do still have to be approved, but anybody in the group can approve you as a member of the group. So, for example, oops, get with it here, Kent. Groups. Here is a sort of a news feed, or the highlights, the conversations, the discussions from the groups that I belong to, and these just happen to be some that come up because they're today. They're the most recent things that are going on today. That's one of the advantages of groups, the discussion part of it. I'm going to look for a group up here. And it's the alumni group from Washburn University where I work. And I'll click on that and show you that this is an individual group, a specific group. There are 2,179 members of that group right now. I'm one of the managers of the group, good or bad, mostly probably not good, but it allows me to approve people when they want to join the group. So if I can, I usually, when I do it, I look at their profiles and just see they have some connection to Washburn before we admit them to the group. But anybody else in the group can do the same thing. They can approve somebody that just wants to belong to the Washburn University group. We recommend this group a lot with Washburn students because it also is you have something in common with other Ichabods when you join this group, and it just provides you with a little bit stronger tie to some of those folks that you might want to connect with. The very first thing here is start a conversation with your group. So when I mentioned that that these are like discussion groups, I wasn't lying. This is anybody who's a member of this group can start a conversation, and you can ask questions. So if I wanted to, if I was moving to Dallas and I wanted to know what was going on in Dallas, I can post a question here to the group and see who chimes in. One of the things that I would caution you about is that groups will send you digests of activity. And the default on that, unless it's changed, so when you join a group, it'll ask you how often you want to receive these digests, but you kind of have to look for it. The default used to be daily, and if you're not careful, you're going to end up getting a bunch of stuff in your inbox that is either repetitious or time-consuming that you don't really want to deal with every day. So I have all of mine, and by the way, I belong to too many groups, but I have all of mine set to weekly so that I receive those digests weekly. And it will tell me what the top conversations were this week, how much activity there was. Sometimes if somebody has joined the group that I know, it'll tell me that. It's really pretty good stuff, I think, helping me know what's going on. When you have situations where there are things that you're interested in, it's to your advantage to comment on those or add to the discussion. So I got an email a couple of weeks ago from Boston Scientific that they were doing a virtual career fair. So this is an online career fair, and I posted it here for Washburn alums because mostly what they were looking for were people who have been out of school for a while and have some experience in the field for a while. And so I posted it on the alumni group for people to look at. But if you pose a question, people will chime in. So I talked about Dallas, and there we go. Somebody asked about whether there are alums in the Dallas area, and somebody commented, yes, I live there. So I think it's really quite helpful. Look at that. There's the K-INBRE group. And I'm not a member of this group, but I could ask to join with this little button on the right side. I can ask to join this group, so I think I will. My request has been submitted. So the manager of that group will get a message that somebody has requested to join, and she will choose to admit me or not. You want to look for groups where you have things in common with people, so professional associations or kind of naturally formed groups by your interests. I've said many times over the years that there is a professional association for everything you can imagine and a whole bunch of things you can't imagine. The one I use is not going to be a surprise to you all, but it was to me. The Association of Blood Spatter Analysts. Those are people who investigate blood spatter at crime scenes. Holy smokes. I can't imagine what that would be like, but there's a professional association for those people. Can you imagine how interesting those conferences are? What they talk about. Yeah. But my guess is they probably have a LinkedIn group. You can find just about anything you want a group for. I mentioned, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find this, maybe I can, that you can turn things off so that they don't show. This I kind of went to the edit my profile section here, and you can turn certain things off. Here's something to keep in mind for the future. If you update your profile, the people that you are linked to are going to get an update, a network update once a week or so, and it will say, Kent updated his profile this week. There's a certain school of thought that if you're updating your profile a lot, the chances are you're looking for something new. So folks often will say, I don't really want my boss to know I'm looking for a new job, and if I start updating my LinkedIn profile, she's going to think that I'm getting ready to bail. And I don't really want that to happen, and we're connected on LinkedIn. So what you want to do in that situation is turn off those notifications, and I have to be honest with you, I'd have to look around for where that is exactly. But you can turn off those notifications so that people will not see that in their weekly network updates. So just keep that in mind for future use. I'll wrap up with just a sort of re-emphasizing some of the things that I think I've already kind of talked about. I believe that the last survey I saw said that your LinkedIn profile is 40% more likely to be viewed if you have a photograph. So you want to be sure that you use a photo. This should not be a picture of your dog. This should not be a party pic. This should not be a picture of you and someone else. This should be a headshot of you. Keep that in mind, please, because you do want to be taken seriously. Now, you'll see everything. When you look around at people's profiles on LinkedIn, you will see everything. But I'm telling you that professionals are looking for professionals. Start with people you know, so you can connect with your faculty members, your fellow students at your school, and folks that you interact with at your meetings, at your conferences, people that you used to work with, people that you work with now. All of those are fair game. Chime in on the discussions. So when there are discussions in your groups, if you have something to add, please do it, because that will help your positive results rise to the top when people Google you. And you probably think that if you Google Kent McAnally that you'd only have one person come up, because that's not a real common name. But I'll tell you a little secret. There's more than one Kent McAnally in the United States. And I want the good stuff to come up when somebody Googles me. And one of those Kent McAnallys, there's some things that come up that aren't so great. So I want my good stuff to be at the top, so I try to be active online and have some good things that I've posted that show up. Actually, at one time, one of those Kent McAnallys was in Wichita, Kansas, if you can imagine that. It was hard for me to believe. You want to give as well as receive. So when people endorse you, you should be willing to endorse other people, and you should do it. Just set aside a little bit of time and look at your connections, the people that you are connected to, and endorse the people that you believe in. Now, I'm not asking you to lie. I wouldn't suggest that you do that. And I also would tell you, don't endorse somebody for something that you don't know anything about. So that, because I think that is just not being very honest. Recommendations are better. Be willing to recommend somebody and write a short paragraph and post it to their profile, because recommendations actually are taken more seriously than endorsements are. Choose your groups wisely. I mentioned that I have too many groups. Most of the experts on LinkedIn, and that does not include me, but most of the experts say you should have, 8 to 10 groups. I have 34, so that's way too many. Most of those groups, there's not much activity on. My Henderson State University Alumni Group, for example, there's not very much activity that comes up on there, so I don't really have to worry about it too much. But most of mine are professionally related to what I do, and I just happen to end up with 34, but that really is probably too many. And finally, you want to be taken seriously as a professional now and forever. And I would give you the same advice that I give students about using email as a means of communication. And that is, use good grammar and be appropriate with the things that you post. If you aren't sure about whether it's correct or not, ask somebody else to look at it, just as you do your resume. I get lots of requests from Washburn students to connect on LinkedIn. And I take a look at every one of those profiles before I click accept. And almost without exception, there's something that's just not quite right. Used the wrong word, or they misspelled something. Believe it or not, occasionally that's their own name. I know you find that hard to believe, but it has happened, and more than once, which is kind of distressing to me. But if you aren't really sure about the rules of grammar, or whether it's constructed in a way that's going to help you look professional, ask somebody else to take a look at it. And I'm sure there's somebody on your campuses, just as there is on this, will help you, coach you a little bit on what will work best for you and what's correct. So I'm a talker, and you've probably already guessed that by now. And I'm about to, at the end of what I wanted to be sure to emphasize. So at this point, Sarah, I'd say that we can take some questions.
Great.
If people have some questions they want to ask.
Does anybody have anything that they would like to ask Kent about his presentation or LinkedIn? Remember to unmute your microphone if you do.
I have a question.
Fire away.
So I know LinkedIn has a feature where you can apply for jobs directly through there, but I had some people tell me that that wasn't a good thing to do because they're not sure that businesses are checking those applications that are sent through LinkedIn.
Sure. So your question is, should I or should I not, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I have, but I just don't know if it would be more beneficial to just go directly to their site to apply,
Yeah.
or apply to LinkedIn.
Got it. Well, I'll tell you this. You know, today, 21st century, it is way too easy to apply for a job. Here's what I mean by that. A lot of folks think that you get a job today by going on the web and clicking submit 1,000 times, and if you do that 1,000 times, you'll get a job. The fact is that that is not a great way to get a job, and it doesn't. In that respect, it doesn't really matter whether it's through LinkedIn or other places. However, let me contradict myself, I suppose, a little bit here. It's my belief, and I will be honest with you, I don't really have data to back this up, but it's my belief that if employers are posting, if they're actually posting the jobs on LinkedIn, which they have the ability to do, if you're still looking at my screen, you can see that if they're actually doing that, they probably are monitoring it. The problem, one of the big problems with the click to apply always is that your application goes into a hopper with a whole bunch more, and you probably won't get any response from it unless they choose to invite you for an interview. So it's really hard to know whether it actually got a look or not. That's the danger of it, I think. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? We're getting close to the end.
Thank you very much for letting me join you today, and I hope you found a little bit of something that you can use. And as I mentioned, there are plenty of people on your campuses that know as much about LinkedIn or more than I do, and I would encourage you to use them as a resource. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you for coming. Everybody should be giving a round of applause.
No, I'm good. I'm not that good. But thank you anyway.
A few things before we end. A reminder that you are, we would like you all to join LinkedIn and join the K-INBRE group, so please do that if you haven't done that already. You may, connect with me personally. I'm welcome to have your connections, and if you would like me to review your profile, I'm happy to do that also to assist. And like you said, connect with your career services on your campuses. If you have any other questions, they can certainly help you with that.
And me too, if you like.
And remember that those pictures you had taken at the symposium, this is their purpose, is they're professional photos to be used with your LinkedIn profile, so please do so. And you can use them for other things also, but
yep.
They're good to have. And connect with us on all of our social media, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me or contact your campus coordinator. And we will be putting this recording up on our website in a few days if you want to watch it again. So thank you for coming.